Welcome back to Euro Football Daily, where for today's top 10, we're bringing you 10 of the biggest career jumps in recent times. Let's get into it. 10. Reece James. For Reece James, it was actually a loan move to the lower reaches of the Championship that preceded his rise to be one of the best right-backs in the country. A number of current Chelsea stars spent the 2018-19 campaign out on loan, including Mason Mount and Trevor Chalobah, but no one anticipated James' sudden leap to the top. Somewhat enforced by a transfer embargo during 2019, new manager Frank Lampard enacted Project Youth, which saw the younger generation at Stamford Bridge given a shot to make it in the first team. James was one of the beneficiaries of this, splitting game time with club captain Cesar Azpilicueta at right back, and by the following campaign had ousted the Spaniard as first choice in the position, even despite Lampard's departure from the club. Still only 22, James has over a century of appearances for the club he first joined as a 6-year-old and has showcased his quality in both attack and defence. In fact, only Mount has more than his 11 goal involvements in the league this season, while he's already a regular in the England setup, where, rightly or wrongly, Gareth Southgate prefers him to Trent Alexander-Arnold. 9. Eldor Shomurodov. If you turn the clock back just 2 years, Eldor Shomurodov was playing for mid-table Russian Premier League side FC Rostov and hadn't yet featured in European competition. Wind it back to 2017 and the attacker was still in his native Uzbekistan, turning out for Bunyodkor, a side made famous by Rivaldo's stint there between 2008 and 2010. Upon signing for Genoa in October 2020, the forward became the second player from his nation to feature in Serie A, and remains the only Uzbek player currently playing in a major European league. After just one campaign and 9 goal involvements at the Stadio Luigi Ferraris, Shomurodov would see his stock rise even further, completing an €18 million switch to Roma, cementing himself as one of the greatest players to ever emerge from that part of the world. While his first season in the Italian capital has left a lot to be desired, acting mostly as backup to Tammy Abraham, the 26-year-old is flying the flag for his homeland. He is though on the verge of a final in his maiden continental campaign, and regardless, seems to have set himself up for a decent career in European football. 8. Craig Dawson. On the face of it, Craig Dawson's career appears relatively steady. The defender has made at least one Premier League appearance in every season since signing for West Bromwich Albion in 2011. However, his reputation since switching Watford for West Ham in 2020 has skyrocketed, something we think even Dawson himself would struggle to believe. Initially signed on loan, the 31-year-old was 4th choice centre-back, not even making a Hammers debut until the final game of 2020. Where he'd win man of the match in a draw versus Southampton. An injury crisis kept him in the team, and his option to buy was automatically triggered after he made his 15th appearance for David Moyes in 2020-21. Not that anyone was complaining. More injuries this season have made Dawson one of the first names on the team sheet, as West Ham found themselves challenging for a Champions League spot. Important goals against Leicester and Newcastle helped his quickly developing cult hero status, while it was also his header that set the Irons rolling as they defeated Lyon 3-0 to make their first European semi-final in 46 years. A far cry from the 2 relegations he suffered in his 3 years before moving to East London. 7. Alphonso Davies. Signing a proven MLS performer is never a guaranteed success. Just look at Josie Altidore and Miguel Almiron as examples. Signing a player that has barely 2 seasons of experience in America's top flight is therefore also a gamble, but that didn't put Bayern Munich off Vancouver Whitecaps winger Alphonso Davies, agreeing a deal when he was just 17, beating the likes of Chelsea and Manchester United to his signature. Expected to take time and develop with Bayern's reserves, then playing in the 4th tier, a defensive injury crisis saw the Canadian drafted in at left back, and to everyone's surprise, the Bavarian started reaping the rewards immediately. Davies quickly became regarded as one of the world's premier left-backs, making the blow of losing David Alaba last summer a lot more manageable. Alongside already being considered the best player to emerge from Canada, Davies has over a century of appearances for Bayern and has won everything there is to win, including 4 Bundesliga titles, 2 DFB Pokals, and the 2019-20 Champions League. He may have always been destined for greatness, but the rate at which he has reached this level is simply astounding, and he's still only 21 years old. 6. N'Golo Kante. When a player is as good as N'Golo Kante is, their rise to the top is almost inevitable. But even then, the rapid ascension of this Frenchman is remarkable, as he went from the French 3rd tier to World Cup winner in just 5 years. The midfielder went from Championnat National side Boulogne to Ligue 2 Caen on a free in 2013, spending 2 years in Normandy before his switch across the channel. Identified at Leicester City as the successor to Esteban Cambiaso, his one campaign in the East Midlands was the biggest in the club's history. The Foxes won the Premier League against all odds, with Kante putting up an almost unbelievable 9 defensive actions a game, comfortably the highest in the division. This earned him a move to Chelsea, which saw Leicester turn their £6 million outlay into a £32 million sale, and at Stamford Bridge, Kante has continued to excel. The first name on the team sheet, he'd win another league title in 2016-17, and just 12 months later, he'd complete his tremendous rise, starting the World Cup final as Les Bleus won it all in Russia. A generation-defining player. 5. Gabriel Martinelli. Often, players make something of a rise in their homeland before moving abroad and making their name in a foreign league. However, it's a testament to Arsenal's scouting team that they managed to pluck Gabriel Martinelli from the depths of Brazil, identifying the attacker while he was still 17 years old, at which point he'd barely made an impression in the lower leagues. Despite starting his career with national giants Corinthians, Martinelli left the Sao Paulo club as a 14-year-old, deciding his footballing future was better served with local side Ituano. The Roosters were only in Serie D, the 4th tier of Brazilian football, when a 16-year-old Martinelli eventually made his debut for the club in March 2018. But just a year later, after 10 goals in 34 games across all competitions, the Gunners paid £6 million for his services, triple Ituano's record sale. And he was straight into the first team upon his move to London, and almost 3 years on, is a starter in a side fighting for Champions League football, already closing in on a century of appearances and with 28 goal involvements at the time of writing. A shrewd move by Arsenal that's already paying dividends. 4. Bradley Wright-Phillips. We're heading into the archives for this one as we take a look at the bizarre turn Bradley Wright-Phillips' career took. Coming through the ranks at Manchester City, he would spend most of his time in England flitting between Championship and League One, with his 2011-12 haul of 22 goals with Charlton representing more than a quarter of his goals scored in his 9 years in the Football League. After a spell with third-tier Brentford in 2012-13, Wright-Phillips made the move to MLS side New York Red Bulls and was an instant hit stateside. His first full campaign saw him win the Golden Boot with 27 goals, and for the next 5 years he'd score no less than 17 times a season, averaging 24 goals a season between 2014 and 2018. He would leave the Big Apple in 2019, retiring after brief stints with LAFC and Columbus Crew, having recorded 117 MLS goals, the 6th most in competition history, while his total of 125 goals for the Red Bulls is more than double anybody else in club history. BWP is regarded as one of the league's best forwards of all time, something no one saw coming after underwhelming back home in England. 3. Junior Messias. In some ways, Junior Messias' arrival in Europe's top leagues mirrors that of Gabriel Martinelli's. The only major difference is that Messias had to wait a decade longer to reach the big time. As a teenager, the forward was in the academy of 4-time Brazilian champions Cruzeiro, but upon failing to make the grade, moved to Italy aged 20 in 2011. He juggled delivering fridges with playing for an amateur team, and thanks to a contact, signed for 5th tier side Casale in 2015. 2 years later, he'd make the step up to the 4th tier, signing for Gozzano, and after their promotion in 2018, he'd finally made it to the professional level in Italy, but it didn't stop there. Somehow the fairy tale still hadn't come to an end, as AC Milan signed the now 30-year-old Brazilian on loan last summer, and he would cap off his rise with the winner in a 1-0 victory over Atletico Madrid on his Champions League debut. Messias went from delivery driver to Champions League footballer in 6 years. It doesn't get much better than that. 2. Arnaut Danjuma. Not many players can claim to have made the jump from Championship playoff semi-final to Champions League semi-final in 12 months, but that's exactly what Villarreal forward Arnaut Danjuma has achieved. In fact, just 2 years ago, he'd made just 6 Premier League starts for Bournemouth as they were relegated. But as the Cherries looked to bounce back, the 25-year-old became the main man, scoring 17 goals as they finished in the top 6 before losing to Brentford in the playoffs. This was enough for Villarreal to splash €25 million on him, and really, the La Liga club couldn't have asked for much more from their new talent. 10 goals in 23 La Liga matches is a solid enough return, but it is in Europe where Danjuma has really made the step up. He'd net 4 times in the group stages as the Yellow Submarine finished runners-up, once against Juventus in the first knockout round, as well as the winner in the first quarter-final leg against Bayern. Danjuma's 6 goals matched the output of both Cristiano Ronaldo and Kylian Mbappe in this season's UCL campaign. He's a long way from the benchwarmer he was in Bournemouth's dismal 2019-20 season. 1. Ben Brereton Diaz. A former Manchester United and Stoke City Academy prospect, Ben Brereton finally broke through at Nottingham Forest and represented England at under-19 level, where he'd net 5 goals in 18 appearances for the Young Lions. Brereton moved to Blackburn Rovers for £7 million while still a teenager, and developed into a competent if unremarkable striker, highlighted by just 7 goals in the 2020-21 championship season. But that summer saw his life change after some Football Manager playing fans realised he was half Chilean and campaigned to get him called up to La Roja. And it worked. He was included in the squad for the 2021 Copa America alongside the likes of Alexis Sanchez and Arturo Vidal, and would score in a 1-0 victory over Bolivia. Embracing his newfound stardom, the striker now goes by Ben Brereton Diaz and has scored 4 in 12 appearances and is also the face of Pepsi in his adopted homeland. A crazy transformation that carried on back at Ewood Park, where he'd net 20 goals in 25 games this season before injury, a disaster that arguably cost Rovers a shot at the Premier League. Regardless, it's clear Brereton Diaz is enjoying his bizarre celebrity status in South America. So those are our 10 unexpected career jumps, but who else deserves inclusion in the list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll never miss an upload. We'll see you next time.